Hi everyone, my name is Victor and I'm one of the authors of Technique.com. Today we're going to continue with our course. We're going to be looking at storage management in Linux, explained with examples. In Linux, there are basically two methods a disk or a drive can be partitioned. One way is by using the standard partitioning method, and the other way is by using the LVM partitioning method. So let's start with the standard partitioning method in Linux. Disk topology in Linux is always in the form of SDA. Then you see other disks to be SDB, SDC, just like that. If it is a virtual environment, you see it as VDA, VDB. So you can see this disk now. On the system, we have just one disk, all right, one hard drive. And you can see the hard drive to be partitioned into SDA1 and SDA2. All right. So that is the way the disk topology in Linux is. So it's possible I attach another disk. When I attach another disk into this system, you will see it as SDB somewhere around here. And I can partition that disk to be SDB1, SDB2, SDB3, SDB4, and so on and so forth. All right. So we're talking about the standard partition first before we talk about the LVM partitioning method in Linux. So to list all the disks and their partitions in Linux, you use the command lsblk, and that is what I've just done now. If I use lsblk, I'm going to be able to see all the disks with their partitions in Linux. So lsblk means list block. You will get to understand this SDA2 that is further partitioned into root and rel swap. When we get to the LVM partitioning method, you can see the type to be LVM. So just forget about this for now. We're talking about the standard partitioning method, all right? So in the standard partitioning method, when you see type here, you see it as parts, which is standard partition. So if it is a disk, you see it as a disk, and if that disk is partitioned, you see it as part, just as we've seen it here. All right. So there are some concepts and some terminologies you should know around storage in Linux. All right. So let's talk about the fdisk utility. So this utility is used to create a standard partition in Linux. All right. So if I have a disk SDA or SDB or SDC, and I want to create a partition on that disk, I'm going to use the fdisk utility to create a partition on that disk. And I can also use the utility, the gdisk utility too, to create a partition on that disk. All right. So let's talk about file systems in Linux. Just as we have different types of file systems in Windows, we also have different types of file systems in Linux, right? So file system is just a way, or rather a system of arranging files on the drive. So let's do this. Let's take this scenario. So for example, if you have a shelf and you've decided that you want to arrange your books into the shelf, so you can either choose a system of arranging the books into the shelf. You can either arrange the books horizontally or you arrange the books vertically. So that's a system you've chosen to arrange the books. So the same thing is also applicable in computer. So a file system is just a system of arranging files on the drive, and there are different. There are lots of file systems. So just as you have the horizontal, vertical, perpendicular way of arranging your books in the shelf, so there are also systems, different kinds of file systems in OS, in computer. So for Linux, for example, we have the XFS file system. So you can decide to arrange your files in the drive in an XFS way. We also have the ext4 file system. All right. We have the ext3, we have the ext2, we have the GFS2, we have so many types of file systems. All right. In Red Hat 7, Red Hat 8, all right, the XFS file system is the default file system, and it is a very good file system for basic storage. It's considered to be flexible and has good tuning options. So we also have the ext234 file systems. They were the default file systems in RHEL 6 systems and below. All right. So this file systems, they use a flat index file, and they're not very scalable as compared to the XFS file system. All right, so we also have the GFS2 file system. The GFS2 file system is basically used for clustering environment, active. I remember I've done quite a lot of active clustering with pacemaker, and I've used the GFS2 file system. So that's what you use for that bit. All right, so let's talk about knowing the type of file system for a particular partition. Everything that I've said here, we're going to do all of this with examples. So I just want you to understand first before we start doing our configurations with examples. That reminds me, if you're going to be writing the RHCSA 8 examination, or you're going to be writing the LFCS exam or the SUSE Linux exam, just scroll down to the end of this website, all right, and come and click the DOMS or the exam practice questions of the examination you want to write. We're going to be updating this with the LFCS exam practice questions and the SUSE Linux practice questions soon. All right. And I'm also going to be dropping the link to the website in the description section below so that you can easily click on the link. So to know the file system of a particular partition, just use the command. You can use the command fsck -n, then the partition, which is dev, which means device. You need to always put the /dev, which is the device. I've talked about this in file system hierarchy and structure in the Learn Linux from Scratch series. All right. So you need to put dev, then SDA1 example. So you can see that this is an XFS type of file system. All right. So the next concept we should know about storage is the mount point. All right. So a mount point is a special directory or a path where drives or partitions are mounted on. So if I have a partition or a drive, for example, the SDA1, the mount point for SDA1 is /boot. So the /boot is a special directory that is always mounted on this drive. So without a mount point, you cannot use a drive. To get devices that are mounted on the system, you use the command df-h. You understand? So you can always see the current devices that are mounted on the system. So for example, you can see this mounted on. So this is a mount point /boot is currently mounted on the SDA1. Y slash this mount point slash is also currently mounted on this device dev mapper root. Okay, so as we move on, we'll look at how to create mount point in Linux. All right. So for this section of the video, I'm going to be stopping. I'm going to be ending this here. So thank you for watching. And in the next video, we're going to look at the fstab file. It is something that we also need to really understand before we go to configuring storage in Linux. So thank you once again for watching. Please subscribe to this channel and bye for now.